It's time to get sexy, so watch Secular Sexuality live Thursdays at 7 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTSS and call into the show at 512-991-9242 or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callsex.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of The Non-Profits. This is the show where we discuss news and topics of the day from a skeptical, humanist perspective. My name is Richard Gilliver. I'm sure you all know me by now. I'm very old. And today I am joined by, I've got to say, I've known this first panelist for a long time behind the scenes, but this is the first time I've ever done a show with her. Very, very excited to be working with Cindy Plaza. How are you going, my friend?
I'm doing okay. Good to be here with you.
And again, returning, if you saw last week's show, you will know the fire that can be lit under this guest. This is August. How are you?
I am doing well. How are you?
I am very good. I'm very excited about today. This show is a product of the atheist community of Austin. It's a 501c3 non-profit organization dedicated to promoting atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. Today, we are going to talk about abuse cases that cast a pall over the church in Portugal, the anti-veil protests, and the long history of resistance in Iran or Iran, if you're from the US, which I'm not. H. Walker, the gospel of Christian hypocrisy, and the Secular Caucus, which will combat nationalism, and I can't speak. As with all of our shows, links to today's topics and the news we discussed are available in the description below. And a reminder that if you want to come into the show prepared, you can check out the Non-Profits Facebook fan page every Friday night for a list of the articles ahead of time. We do broadcast at this same time every Sunday, and despite what other shows might be going on tonight, ours is and always will be the best in this time slot. So we're going to go into segment 1, and I'm going to pass it over to the amazing August.
All right, everyone, let's get this show on the road. So our first segment comes from Portugal, and it was written October 3rd on the Associated Press. So the clergy of the Catholic Church, unsurprisingly, has been caught in another scandal and has been found to shelter and give apologies for another case of sexual misconduct. And this time it's a Nobel Peace Prize winning bishop. And to be honest, he has a very long name. So if you want to know the bishop's full name, go ahead and check out the link that'll be in the description for the article. But yeah, in the mid to late 90s, in 1996, he won the Nobel Peace Prize. But in the 90s, there was also the sexual misconduct allegations against him. So I want to go ahead and give it over to Cindy to hear your thoughts.
So Wikipedia has an actual listing of the sexual abuse cases in the Catholic Church, and that's just the Catholic Church, not the other religions. As of time of writing, there are 36 countries listed. So multiply these 36 by, 500, 1,000, 2,000 cases in every country. That's a lot. So I don't even know where to begin because we've been through this a dozen times already on the non-profits. Every month, it seems like we have something like that, uncovering of a scandal, sex abuse. But what struck me was this sentence in the article. senior Catholic leaders apologized over the weekend for the hurt caused by decades of alleged abuse and cover up. Usually they go hand to hand. Currently estimated number about around 400 cases, with the Archbishop of Lisbon begging the faithful to not lose faith in the church, because that's what's more important for them, right? Their power. They're literally begging people to stay despite having abused kids. Let that sink in your mind for a second, and realize what's happening here. We're abusing your kids, but please keep believing in us. Um, that, that's extremely high despair from this criminal entity. And I wish we had Teo Alateo tonight to talk about this, because he's always fired up when we talk about this wonderful entity. But yeah, Richard, what do you have to say?
Teo loves the Catholic Church. He's awesome when he talks about the Catholic Church. Yeah, don't Catholics get bored of apologizing over sexual abuse cases? I mean, you touched on it there, Cindy, when you said it seems like every month there's another case comes out. It's like every month in the Catholic Church is abuse month. The Archbishop of Lisbon, Manuel Clemente, or Clement, like you said, begged people not to lose faith in the church. I've got a fantastic idea. It's wonderful. It's groundbreaking. It's revolutionary. Don't sexually abuse people. It works wonders for public relations. I don't understand why they do it. It's bizarre. Be confident, he said, that for our parts, we will do our best with respect to the law and the gospel. Forgive me for not taking you seriously, when the Catholic Church's usual response to abuse cases is to move the abuser to a different area and to try their best to save face by issuing off-arsed responses. And that is exactly what they've done in this case. As soon as I started reading this article and saw that, I predicted, they call me a prophet. This show's called The Non-Prophets, but I am a prophet in this regard. I just knew that this guy was going to have been moved around, and that's exactly what turned out to happen. August.
All right, so I have a couple of things here that struck me. I want to point out the fact that I feel like for so many years, they've just denied. So how much evidence has to be present for them to finally go, okay, yes, the allegations might have some water to them, might have some weight to it. Therefore, now we have to publicly apologize. And I think it's overwhelming, the idea that they're saying there's about 400 cases, which obviously even one is too many. But when I look at that number, I think about all the cases that have gone unreported and all of the cases that they aren't talking about, all the cases that they don't have enough evidence to need to apologize for. So that struck me. But also, I can't be surprised, not just because the Catholic Church has done this so many times, but because when you have a religion that pushes this purity culture of no sex before marriage, and then you have clergy members who are meant to stay celibate their entire lives, what the fuck did you think was going to happen? And I also find it pretty funny, and by funny I mean completely abhorrent, that they are so outwardly against homophobia or homosexuality and being gay. They are homophobic. And yet these scandals, while there are some girls in the scandals, I would say the overwhelming majority that we've seen are young boys, which I think is just, I don't have the word for it. I guess ironic in a very dark and sinister way, and very, very hypocritical. So it's not, this is not okay. And I don't want it to get swept under the rug like it does so many other times. Cindy, you have anything else?
I'm not sure that it's a case that there's just a larger proportion of gay bishops or gay priests or clergy, however you want to phrase it, in the Catholic Church. I think it's just a case that they're so repressed, and the demographic is that they tend to be around young boys more. We see it in other religions. It's not exclusive to Catholicism. We see abuse in other religions, and we see in Buddhism, for example. We have the same thing when guys who were supposed to be celibate come into contact with women when they're teaching in the West, and a lot of abuse cases there. But it's I don't know. It really frustrates me. The excuses frustrate me. One of the excuses given for Bishop Balo was that we stand with Bishop Balo because we realize as a human being, Balo has weaknesses or mistakes like others. We cannot ignore his kindness and what he has fought for the people of East Timor. Now let that sink in for a moment. You know, how kind must he have seemed to his victims when he was sexually abusing them? They don't think. Why would you make a statement like that? Quite rightly, and despite it's being defended by members of the church, this has caused spotlight to fall onto the church authorities. And the article tells us that the United Nations and advocates for victims have called on Francis to authorize an investigation into the circumstances surrounding Balo's 2002. 2002. I'm going to say that several times.
I was going to mention that as
when
well.
he was 20 years shy of the normal retirement age, and why he was sent to Mozambique. It couldn't possibly be, bear with me, that he was sent away instead of the church reporting him to the police and defrocking him, because that's what they do in almost every single case of one of them being caught abusing children, could it? Possibly?
What?
At all?
That's unheard of.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say yes. Cindy, what do you think?
Yeah, every time I hear one of those stories, I think about this very specific character in Victor Hugo's Notre Dame of Paris, Frollo, the priest. It's exactly what you were saying. He can't control his lust he feels to this young woman, and I think this is the same thing. They have those natural urges. They can't let them go because of this stupid religion that contradicts itself, by the way, because the Bible says that the priests should be married because he can't be asked to hold a parish if he cannot hold his own house. So there's that. But yeah, it's this we have this this abhorrence in our society towards every time people try to explain sexual abusers' behavior towards children. Every time you see in the media, in courts, every time the lawyers are trying to explain why he is like this, people just shut down the discussion. And here, when it's a priest, then everyone tries to find excuses for them.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and if I know everybody's thinking the same thing when he was moved, and he was moved to Mozambique, and when he was moved to Mozambique, bear in mind the church we suspect had knowledge of what he'd been doing. He did have access to children, and the church apparently saw fit to let him teach children and give retreats to young people, because let's not forget, at least one of them stands by him and cannot ignore his kindness. So, to be fair to the church, after allegations reached the Vatican, I don't know why I'm being fair to the church, but I am. In 2019, they did prevent him from having contact with minors or East Timor. It only took them 17 years to do it, and only after what the article calls a backdrop of revelations published by a lay committee looking into historic church sexual abuse cases in Portugal. It's always somebody else who whistleblows on them. They never see fit to do it themselves. They never report it to the police themselves, no matter what the crime. And this is what's so frustrating about it. The article tells us that since January, it has unearthed around 400 alleged cases. And it seems like a recurrent theme when we discuss the Catholic Church that they move their abusers on, often without limiting their contact to children and only to make an effort to put more stringent controls in place when the public spotlight is on them. Some might call it damage limitation. August, what do you think?
Well, nothing good about this, but I just think it's so horrific. Just these are people that are in power. These are people that have control, and they are coming after arguably the most vulnerable, the ones that are told to be quiet and obey and just do what you're told. Don't argue, don't fight back. And so what are we teaching these kids? And yet these are the same people that will then say that drag lunch hours or reading drag story time is tarnishing and ruining our children. But yet when things like this happen, you never see the outcry. It's more of a, the actual good people who are in this church are making excuses for it. And I think that's the kind of thing that religion will push good people to do, because good people can be good people, but then it takes something as controlling and indoctrinating and poisoning your brain to make you make excuses for child abuse, and not only child abuse, but sexual child abuse, which I can't think. Sexual misconduct is such a different type of violation in my head, just because there's no justification. There's none. Even if, you can harm someone in self-defense, and even then we say, okay, well, what was the context? There is zero context. Let me make this very, very clear. There is literally zero context where an adult, or even just anyone assaulting, but especially an adult, and especially an adult in a higher position, in a position of authority, using that power to go against these innocent kids. And then they're making these situations where a lot of Catholic, if I remember correctly, a lot of the Catholics have the confessions, and I have a feeling that that's probably where a lot of that happens, because it's the private little thing, and oh, don't tell anyone. And so it just infuriates me that this is happening, and the good people that are in that church are making excuses. And I'm not talking about the people in the higher ups. They are past any sort of redemption at this point. I'm talking about the regular common people that are making excuses for the Catholic Church, and then turning around and saying that someone wearing different clothing in drag shows is a problem, or saying, hey, if you like someone of the same sex, gender, whatever you want to say, if that's okay. That's okay. And we're promoting love, and yet we are the ones destroying the children, the ones who want a secular society. I can't.
Yeah, it's never a good thing. I think anybody, this is advice to anybody out there, not just Catholics. If you find yourself turning a blind eye whenever anything you find immoral is happening, then you need to have a good heart. That is a point. That is a trigger point. You should say to yourself, what am I doing here? What can I do better within myself? Cindy.
Yeah, without the religious influence, the Vatican, which is the political branch of the Catholic Church, has zero power on the world scene. So we need to push against all those organizations, local organizations in every country, and push them slowly to reduce their power, which they don't really use well anyway. So whether it's to say, hey, Africa, don't use condoms because that's wrong, or anything else, we need to reduce.
Sorry, Cindy, go on.
No, we need to reduce the Vatican's influence, and the only way to do that is to fight all those local Catholic churches and kick them where it hurts.
Yeah, and I do want to mention something that Richard said earlier. I believe you said that the United Nations was calling on the victims to have Pope Francis authorize an investigation. And I feel like we kind of just skated on from that point. No offense to you, Richard, but I've been sitting here thinking about that, and I'm like, we have to get permission? Why do we need his permission? Am I reading this wrong? Do we have to get the person who's at the head to, I mean, it's like trying to say, well, chief of police, you have to authorize us investigating your policeman. Or we could just do it because there's probable cause here. I mean, regardless of the United States or anything, there's probable cause to think, I think that's an understatement. There's probable cause. So why would we need the Pope's permission? Of course, he's probably not going to do it. This is like internal investigation. That's not going to come up with anything. Am I reading that wrong, Richard, please?
Tap. I think it's called tap dancing around religious sensibilities. And the Catholic Church are enormously powerful and enormously wealthy. And I suspect somewhere along those lines, I wouldn't go out on the limb and say this is definite, but I suspect somewhere along the lines, some of that wealth and some of that power might have a small influence in global politics. And, I think when organizations are that big, they feel that they have to kind of take gentler steps and ask for permission. And let's not forget that this guy, this abuser, no less, won a Nobel Prize. August, did you want to say something about that?
Well, the people that have won that prize have been, at least probably most of them, have been very deserving. I know that Martin Luther King Jr. has received that same award. So we're putting Martin Luther King Jr. Needs no introduction, needs no explanation. We're putting him on the same level as this child sexual predator. Is that what we're doing now? Well, and also apparently Mother Teresa has won one as well. And so maybe that's not the best peaceful prize, but that prize means nothing to me now, because what kind of peace are you promoting from touching little boys? From molesting and traumatizing
anywhere in the article that said that the prize had been stripped either. I don't know if any of you two caught that.
I didn't see anything.
Yeah, I think it was on the process of being stripped or just being stripped. I don't remember, but
why is there a process of stripping a prize from a Nobel Peace Prize? Or, well, no, a Nobel Prize. I'm sure it wasn't the Peace Prize, but a Nobel Prize from a sexual predator. There shouldn't be a process for that. It should just fucking happen.
Richard, I'm so sorry to say that this article says many, many times that it was specifically a Nobel Peace Prize.
Oh, was it? Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I was inadvertently correct.
I just want to make sure that people know, like, no hate to you, Richard. I appreciate everything you do here, and it's great chatting with you today. But oh my gosh, yeah,
being right when you're wrong
about
being right is always something that's a very special talent.
And I'm so sorry. I get upset at stuff like this, especially when it has to do with stuff that is inexcusable, unexplainable, and absolutely abhorrent.
Cindy, final thoughts on this segment?
See you next time.
Oh no.
Yeah. Okay,
sad but true. Stop touching little boys and girls, and keep your hands to yourself. I think we learned that in like kindergarten, our first year of school, not to touch people. And then especially as an adult of power, maybe if you don't want scandals that you have to constantly apologize for, maybe you should just, like you said, Richard, it's super easy, costs $0. Stop touching children.
Yeah, respecting people's boundaries is something you should learn at a very, very early age. Right, let's put that one behind us. That was quite a heavy one. I want to thank our veteran and new viewers for getting us over 11,000 subscribers. 11,000. That's awesome. Thank you. So if you're watching us now and haven't subscribed yet, please do. Once you've subscribed, do that like and ring in that bell business. You know, that thing that every content creator tells you to do. Well, I'm telling you to do it.
And
so you always know when a new Non-Profits episode premieres. And if you don't know, it's every Sunday at 3 p.m. Central Time. 3 p.m. Central Time. And it's the best program at 3 p.m. Central Time, no matter what competitors we might have. Then share the link to our channel with your friends, family members, co-workers, and everybody else. Cats, dogs, dragonflies, and anything you can find, really. Just share it. It's fantastic. Anyone and everyone. Let's get the word out there so we can start helping with those fundraisers. And are you aware that the atheist community of Austin has another YouTube channel? Oh, yes, we do. You should be. Check out the Atheist Experience Network, a channel where you can find all of the ACA shows in podcast form. We have many great shows. Subscribe at tiny.cc/AEN podcast to listen to episodes of the Non-Profits, the Atheist Experience, Secular Sexuality, and all of our other ACA shows so you don't miss a single episode. Right, we're going to move into section 2. August has been very, very greedy this week and leading us into the first 2, so take it away.
Oh, all right, I guess. So now we are going over to Iran. And this was published on AP News on September 28th of this year, and it goes over I think it's been all over the media, the Iranian protests about the hijabs and headscarves that women or people assigned female at birth are forced to wear there. And it sounds like such a beautiful thing until you realize there are a few martyrs. And it's just, they shouldn't have had to be a martyr, but it's become a real problem. People are getting physically beat. There's been so many problems, and these women are just so brave to do this. But actually, one woman that specifically chanted, it appears that she was chanting "Death to the dictator," and she allegedly died in police custody. She was arrested by what they call morality police, taken to the Capitol, and then died in custody. And obviously, we all know that was not an accident. So I want to go ahead and pass it off to Cindy to know your thoughts.
It's funny because this article was written on the 28th of September, and as today we are recording, they are still going on. John Oliver last weekend did a piece on it. It was very interesting, and he was showing teenage girls protesting. And when I say teenage, I mean 16 to 17. I mean that's so brave. We know how brutal the Iranian government can be, and those young girls, they're outside and they're protesting, and fiercely protesting, I would say. So I'm really, really impressed, not just by the length of the protests, but also by its strength. It's we need to remember that 60% of the population in Iran are below 20 years old. So it's a very, very young country. And the problem here is a bit like with Putin in Ukraine. The government is being pushed in a corner, and usually autocrats, they tend to react very, very strongly when they're cornered. So I'm afraid of what's going to happen in the next weeks. I hope this will goes well, but I'm not extremely confident. But yeah, kudos to them. They're very, very brave and very impressive.
Yeah, I want to touch on something Autumn said in August. I don't know why I keep doing that. I want to touch
It's okay.
on something August said. I apologize, August.
You're fine.
And in the in the introduction there, when you mentioned the morality police, the technical term for them is the gash-e-irshad, which translates as guidance patrols, which is a much softer name than the morality police. And they target people, although it's usually women, as it always is in things like this. Men are technically under scrutiny too, but it is usually women for, among other things, not being dressed morally. I mean, how do you have an entire organization within your country, within your regime, let's say, that is specifically sent onto the streets to make sure people are correctly morally dressed? And this article is not just about the current revolution, it's about the history. And Iran's a really unique country in this respect, and in the Middle East, because it has had a rich history of not having head coverings and not having these kind of strict clothing policies. In fact, it wasn't until 1979 when the Iranian Revolution deposed the Shah, and in 1983 the new Shiite cleric-led Islamic regime made the veil compulsory, which had originally been banned by the old Shah all the way back in the 1930s. And women have been challenging this rule for many, many, many years. Some have wore looser scarves, and we've seen recently some have public protested against the wearing of the veil at all. And it is a dangerous, dangerous game. And it's gone from being, the big demonstrations, which we have seen a lot of. Figures have said that 41 protesters and police have been killed and up to 1,400 demonstrators arrested. These aren't official figures, I've got to stress this, but it's important. It's important to seek up-to-date and reputable sources if you want to look at this further. So let's go to August.
I want to take a second to break this down to its building blocks. We have to remember what this is. Yes, it's protesting against a religious, theocratic government. It is tyranny. It's horrific. But let's not forget what they're being arrested and killed for. And I know we keep saying it. We keep saying, a headscarf, a hijab. In some places, it's a burqa or the clothing that covers everything except for your eyes. And this is people dying, getting beat, being arrested, and just in general terrorized over a piece of cloth that is supposed to go on only women's heads. So it's already being sexist by targeting women. And when I say women, I mean female, assigned female at birth, because of course they're not going to recognize any sort of gender spectrum, as we know there is. This is a piece of cloth. This is a piece of cloth that they say apparently makes you immoral if you don't wear because of hair. It's unspeakable. I don't understand how it can get to this. And the article says that, some people weren't even, a lot of the women weren't even mad necessarily about the hijab. They were more mad at the fact that they know where this leads. We've seen this so many times before. They start with stuff like this, and then they take away your entire autonomy. You will have no rights. And so it says that March 7th, 1979 was when the new dictator said that everyone, or assigned female at birth people, had to wear a hijab. And it says the very next day, March 8th, which we know is the International Women's Day, tens of thousands of women went in the streets and protest and marched without a veil on. And I want to say I'm proud of them and everything, but I just feel bad for them. They shouldn't have to do this. It's a piece of cloth that's built off of the patriarchy, saying that this arbitrary, dumbass rule that someone just fucking pulled out of their ass is now getting people killed and arrested. It's a piece of cloth over hair. I feel like that's all that needs to be said for this to be horrendous and insane. But anyway, Cindy, take it from here.
Yeah, there's one specific reason why this scarf or this burqa or these veils are imposed. It's because men cannot control themselves. And some Muslims just will say it flat out. It's just because they are too tempting for men, and men can't just control themselves. And so why is it that it doesn't light a bulb in those men's brain to say, hey, we have to cover them because we can't control ourselves. We have a problem, not them. That's so insane. And the second part I wanted to mention, and I want to be quick because I don't want to stay too long away from this specific situation, but I've seen recently on social media Christians saying the same kind of things in the US, like your shorts are too short, we see almost everything, so you need to cover yourself. And so that's not very good.
Yeah, I must say, as a man, I find it exceptionally difficult every day to just avoid going sexually abusing women because of the clothes they're wearing. It's such a task. No, it's not. It's just you just be fucking respectful. It's just a stupid excuse. It's a stupid excuse to try and cover up a stupid religious moral law that you can't justify. That's all it is. That's all it is. You know, this our dusty old book. They like the dusty old books, these men. Whether they're Christians or Muslims or Buddhist or Hindus, the dusty old books are very authoritative in their life, and they find themselves making great excuses for them. Like, I've got no control. I can't control myself. It's not, you can't control yourself, mate. You can control yourself. I'm a man. I can control myself. It's easy peasy. Easy, really easy. You just don't listen to your fucking book. And then you're done. It's all sorted. It's all solved. Not difficult at all. August.
Yeah. And, this is actually something that I've struggled with for a long time, even as a person that followed the Christian religion, more or less. Even in that time, I was always so torn about it because I was kind of, if I was driving at that time, I probably would have had a coexist. We all see those bumper stickers of coexist with all the different religions. As I was transitioning out of religion, I had that idea that like, oh, everybody's right, which is just bullshit, obviously. But I'm so torn because my gut tells me this is misogynistic. Just the idea of Islam requiring women to wear hijabs. Obviously, I find the situation in the Middle East horrific. I mean, in general, the religion. I want people to be able to wear what they want, and if you feel more comfortable covering up, anything, literally cover everything. I don't care. It's more of the fact that so many people are born into this, they're indoctrinated into this, and they're convinced from unspeakable places. And you're using, like Richard said, the dusty old book. And I feel like they just don't know anything different. And so they convince themselves that this is their choice. I've heard so many women of the Islamic faith saying, oh, well, no, this is my choice. And then I so badly want to ask them, okay, but what would happen if you didn't? Even if you weren't going to get put in jail, even if you weren't going to get beat or harassed, what would legitimately happen to you if you actually decided that it was your choice and you didn't want to make that choice anymore? What would the people of your religion do to you? And obviously that's going to depend on where you are regionally and, which country you reside in. But I get so torn. I'm a feminist. I want, women to feel empowered. And if that means showing everything, go for it. If that means showing nothing, go for it. Fuck if I care, man. If you're not hurting yourself or others, who gives a shit? I don't. I sure as fuck don't. But it's just always something I've struggled with. And I obviously lean more towards I think they're being indoctrinated into the fact that they think it's immoral and dirty to show their hair. But I don't know. I wish people could just fuck off. Like, let people wear what they want to wear. I know it's a cultural thing, but I want people to wear what they want to wear, and not because Sky Daddy will get pissed off because, whoever will start looking at them sexually as if that's their fault. It's like what I believe Cindy said it, like this, we're covering up for the lusts of men. And that's really why they're doing it. Even if they say it's their choice, I'm like, is it really your choice? Because what would happen if you didn't? What would happen if you decided, no, my choice is to actually not? So I don't know.
That's a very good question, and I'm going to touch on that for a bit. First, I just want to say, I hope we can have swearing in the clipping of the mid-rolls, because I hope they just fuck off is my choice for the mid-roll. Okay, so do people have a choice? Cindy, in France, it's as I understand it, the head covering is banned. So how do Muslim women go on there?
Yeah, I haven't followed the situation in France on this very specific topic for a while, but yeah, it's the burqa that's forbidden, and also the some of the longest scarves are forbidden in universities as well, because universities are funded by government, and we're not supposed to have religious signs. There's also the issue sometimes of parents who go help with school trips. If those parents are wearing obvious religious signs, that seems to cause issues sometimes. Yeah, France doesn't have a great record on this. We have a very strong far right, as you could see. They got 44% in the last general election. So sometimes the power in place will try to appeal to some of them and do something like this. But yeah, as August was saying, it's a very strong dilemma to deal with. To on one hand, give power to women to wear what they want, and on the other side, fight the bigotry that's obviously behind these pieces of cloth.
Yeah, and I do want to just jump in real quick and say that I think I had heard that France had banned it, but not entirely. So but my inclination is to say, I don't agree with that either. I don't want it to be banned. Not even for the religious aspect, even if they are wearing it for their religion. I don't know. I do believe in freedom of religion and freedom from religion. I'm a strong believer in that. You live your religion however you want. If it doesn't affect me, I don't fucking care. So wear your headscarf if you feel like it. I just don't think anyone should be forced one way or another. And I think banning it, while not as bad as forcing it, I think banning it, honestly, in my opinion, is bad too. I want people to do what they want to do. If that means wearing your headscarf, have at it. I want you to feel comfortable. But I don't agree with that either. I don't want it to be banned anywhere. I don't think any clothing, books, nothing should be banned like that. Don't force it on people and don't prevent them from making their own decision. So, Cindy, I don't know how you feel about it being banned, but I support freedom of religion and from religion. And that includes if you're a woman that is in the Islamic faith and you want to do that, or if you just feel like it, you should be able to without the government doing something to you or threatening you or making it illegal. So I do want to hear, Cindy, what you think about it.
So I'm against banning the scarves, but I tend to be a little bit in favor of banning the burqa because there are other issues there. You cannot see who is behind, and
yeah, that's a good point.
That makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, I can see that. Richard, what do you think about this? Do you think the hijab or burqa or both or neither should be banned? What do you think?
Well, the hijab is kind of it's a blanket term, I think, for the head covering, which includes the burqa and niqab.
Okay.
But I think, look, women are removing the hijab and publicly burning them. In Iran, people are taking they're choosing to choose, and that's brilliant. What's unique about this case, I think, in Iran is that a lot of these protests are taking place in the kind of centers of the Islamic leadership and the religious leadership and the conservative areas. And that's what's drawing so much attention from commentators. I could talk on this subject for hours and hours and hours. We are going to have to start wrapping this one up. But yeah, this is some. Go and read the articles, and email us. Let us know what you think about it.
And while you're down in the description, go ahead and press like and subscribe so you can see our pretty faces again. While you're down there, you might as well.
My job for me. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, no, it's fine. The more encouragement, the better. Final thoughts, Cindy?
Well, yeah, I really, really hope that they will gain something in the end of this because, again, I think they're super brave and they're fighting the good fight. So go, girls.
August.
People should be able to do whatever the fuck they want to do, and everyone else should fuck off, pretty much.
And on that note, that was a fantastic final thought. Okay, so we're going to take a break in our conversation. If you didn't tune into the other ACA shows last week, here is what you missed.
And so are there any circumstances where polyandry, where multiple husbands might be allowed or mentioned in Islam?
0. You will be stoned to death if you dare.
Man, the Book of Revelations is metalist. I'd like to see a beast with 7 heads, upon its head 7 crowns, and its mouth the word blasphemy. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, I want to meet this, the whore of Babylon. She seems cool.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah.
Maybe instead of pushing your religious bigotry on students that are young and impressionable, how about you focus on educating them and getting them to graduate high school and actually give them resources for college and careers like you said you would. How about that?
There's no way to get around this now. You've all been already discussing this, but I have to come out to all of you and say that I am actually trans Jesus. Like I am the second coming of trans Jesus.
25,000 people, including over 10,000 children, starve to death every single day. That's more than 1,000 people an hour. In the time it's taken us to do this show, over 1,000 people have starved to death. If there's a God, what's up with that?
It's been a long 2 years. Let's put our dulcet tones on. It's been a long 2 years also since we've all been able to congregate together. But based upon updates from the CDC and other scientific organizations, we are going to be able to ease back into doing live shows from the Free Thought Library. The next in-studio broadcast will be on Sunday, October the 30th, 2022. Both Talk Eden and The Atheist Experience will be broadcast at their normal times. That's 1 p.m. and 4:30 p.m. respectively. But now you can be part of the studio audience. So start planning now, this very second, to get the whole family and your friends and your cats and dogs and other exotic pets into the station wagon. We don't have station wagons in Britain, but into the station wagon or other large utility vehicle and get on over to Austin, Texas, USA to meet and greet your fellow non-believers, show hosts, and the people who make the magic possible. The crew! The doors to the library will be open at 12 noon to the public, so we hope to see you there. If you can't make it there in October, we will continue to broadcast from the library the last Sunday of each month. So keep watching this show and our website, atheist-community.org, for news, information, and as we expand our in-studio offerings in the near future, we hope to see you there. Right, we're going to move into segment 3, and I believe my old friend Cinder is going to lead us into this one.
Yes, I will. But before that, I'd like to hear you say library again, please.
Library.
Okay.
I also love the ASMR at first. That was fantastic. Got the tingles and everything.
So this third document we're going to talk about is an opinion from MSN.com, which was written about a couple of weeks ago. The date where the article has been published is not apparent on the article. I couldn't find it. But since we also learned a lot about the situation since then, and the coverage has been extreme on this front, because Georgia is a key seat to keep for the Democrats and gain for the Republicans. So I'm going to talk about the larger situation at hand here. So Herschel Walker is aiming for Georgia senator seat. This man has been running on an anti-abortion platform. Other than that, he's been also anti-evolution, anti-science, anti-pretty much everything. This anti-abortion platform is absolutely without single exception for rape, incest, or danger to the mother's life. And yet, once again, we discover that he paid for a former girlfriend's abortion in 2009. The hypocrisy here is even bigger because he then tried to get her to have a second abortion a couple of years later. She refuses, and she had the child. And now we know that he has 4 children from 4 different wives, and he didn't raise a single one. So for the party of family values, this is quite insane, especially since because of this, the importance of this seat, even Mitch McConnell decided to put all his weight and money behind this candidate because, it's too late to change. So, August, what are your thoughts?
Well, for me, I think it gives very much only for me, not for thee vibes, just about, abortions are wrong if I think your reason for it isn't justified. But I know my reasons for it. In his mind, he's saying, I know my reason for it, and my abortion, or the abortion I'm going to pay for to silence my girlfriend, it seems like he was doing. We always know that it's going to be he will think it's okay for him and any of his people he's involved with, but it won't be okay for the normal people who arguably have much, much better reasons than he probably does. So I just think that it's whenever they found out that they could use something like abortion to rally their the Christian minority, majority, not minority, the Christian majority, they could rally and get to vote for them and give them a common demon and give them a scapegoat. Because as I believe is George Carlin or said, it's really easy to advocate for the unborn, the quote unborn. I really don't like that term, but it's really easy to advocate for a group that can't talk back or doesn't demand anything from you until 9 months later, where you say, get lost, kid, you're on your own. But anyway, I want to hear what Richard has to say.
I'm not sure why this story is a shock to anybody. And Christian nationalists not practicing what they preach is pretty much standard. We've covered story after story after story after story after story after story here on the non-profits of right-wing Christians, especially those in positions of leadership or power, engaging in corruption, drugs, and affairs. When it comes to practicing what you preach, they're hardly top of the list. I think in the spirit of fairness, this isn't exclusive to Christianity. In Islamic countries, pornography is highly consumed. Statistics constantly tell us this, despite being haram, which is forbidden by Islamic law. And according to Pink News, Pakistan is the country that watches the most gay porn. And, you'll also find many Muslims tucking into a bacon sandwich and having a sneaky pint on occasion. Catholic priests aren't the only sexual abusers. A senior research officer at Inform said in an article in the 2018 Guardian article, the majority of our inquiries at the moment concern Buddhist groups. So hypocrisy, I think, is widespread in those religious people who just love to tell others how they should be living. But, specific to this article, I think August touched on some brilliant points there. Christians, I think, don't feel like, they like to tell others, don't they, that you shouldn't have sex before marriage. Abstinence makes the heart grow fonder, as they say. But, we know that the Christians don't practice that. The only Christians practicing that are the young Christians who are told that they shouldn't practice that. And even then, in those states where things like abortion and contraception are forbidden and frowned upon, you'll find the highest rates of teenage pregnancy. That's a shock. But when it comes to the higher ups, to the parents and the grandparents, I'm sure in a lot of cases, and the ones telling the young people not to do this, they're the ones who are going out and having affairs and causing pregnancies. It's really just hypocrisy. What else is there to say to it? Cindy, what do you think?
So you just touched on something that I already wanted to talk about. You said you were a prophet. I think there's some truth in that. So we can talk about the hypocrisy of the right and the Christian right for hours, and we have on the non-profits. So I want to address one specific angle of this, and it's and we've had this very well quite often on Tokiden and AXP. Men coming and giving us the argument that women need to take their responsibility. Consent to sex equals consent to pregnancy. You were talking about abstinence, and that's exactly it. And that that argument pisses me off big time, because I every time I hear it, it's like I'm bursting. So admittedly, I don't know if Walker used it, this very specific argument, but you have guys fucking around, leaving women to deal with the children alone, and that's been an issue for centuries, tens of centuries, especially when those same men created an environment where single women were ostracized, like in Christian times. Single women were set apart of society. And then you have those guys coming and tell us that we women need to take our responsibility, and if we have sex, we need to have the baby. Well, fuck you. You first. Take your responsibility first.
Get him, Cindy. Yes. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I'm stunned. I really like that, Cindy. Good for you. Let it out, girl. Let it out. I do want to say that this it's again hilarious in a completely non-hilarious way because of the way they shame people for this, but it just reminds me so much of those Christians who are just so holier than thou and only for me, not for thee. So you have Christians, or as Richard so amazingly put, we have to be generous and say that all, or at least the most popular ones, usually push some kind of purity culture. So this is not exclusive to Christians or Christianity or any of the Abrahamic religions either. I just talk about Christianity the most because that's what I'm most familiar with. So I just want to make that clear. But they try to say, okay, save yourself for marriage, which we know that that's a bad idea for so many reasons. But then it's like they decide, nah, actually, I don't want to wait. I actually want to have sex now. And then they do that. And then they can just go, oh no, the Lord turned me from my wretched ways and I'm forgiven. And it's like, wow, that's so nice. You can still do whatever you want, which is funny. It's funny that they claim that atheists are only atheists because we just want to sin and we want to do whatever we want when they do the same shit, which is amazing and hypocritical, obviously, as the title of the article so amazingly put, the gospel of Christian hypocrisy. I couldn't put it any better. But I do want to put one thing from the article out there that I think really needs to be said, is that it says and alleges that Walker's moral character was answered when his own son publicly on Twitter told him off and said, and I quote, "You're not a family man when you left us to bang a bunch of women." And then he later added, "You have 4 kids that we know of, and you weren't in the house raising one of them. You were out cheating and lying." So, and then he continues on. So clearly his son is even calling out his hypocrisy, which I think is hilarious. That actually is funny in a completely funny way. So just wanted to point that out. Even his son doesn't like him.
Yeah, well, his son is also a very full MAGA, full QAnon kid. So I'm not sure it's a win, but
it's not a win, but it's something.
yes. Still, for as we know so far, and I had a point, but I totally forgot it. So Richard, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have we covered hypocrisy, Christian hypocrisy?
Richard, I
Specifically?
feel like every week that I'm on this show, every fucking time, it's another goddamn fucking article about how Christians are hypocrites. When will it end? Please, someone put an end
It's
to it. Can we end
it's
it,
like
please?
it's like it's the only thing they can do. Well, what's on the Christian agenda for today? Let's work out our liturgical calendar for the year. Okay, week 1. Let's be hypocritical. Week 2. Let's do something different this week. Let's be hypocritical. Week
It's
3.
either
I think we should go down the hypocrisy route this week, just so we're not saying hypocritical for a third time. it's it's great. It's fantastic. It's not fantastic. It's ridiculous. What mirror are these people holding up to themselves?
right.
Because as you said, when we're talking to, I don't want to kind of paint Christians with a broad brush, but when you're talking to many Christians in kind of our arena who talk to atheists on a regular basis, they will tell us how bad our morality is and ask us, what standard do you have for morality? What standard do you have for morality?
Right.
And I just want to say, where the fuck is your mirror? I don't care what standard you've got, but where is the mirror? Because the stuff you're doing is ridiculous. They talk about atheist immorality, and atheist immorality is not immoral. It's just stuff they don't like. They're the ones actually doing the immoral shit. If you're in a relationship with someone and you're not happy in that relationship, this is a piece of life advice, people, because I'm an old man, as you can see by the silver in my hair. If a bit of life advice for everyone here. Let's sit back and listen to the dulcet tones of the Englishman.
Take notes,
if you're in a
kiddos.
relationship and you're not happy, there's something that you can do. You can communicate with your partner that you're not happy.
Or you can get the fuck out. You could also do that.
Communicate. If you're not happy and if you can't work it out between you, then you can agree to go your separate ways. That's moral. That's what morality is. What you don't do is you just lie to your partner and go and fuck an 18-year-old behind their back and get them pregnant, and then go into the confession booth at the end of the week and say, "I'm really sorry, God, I didn't mean to do it. I'm so sorry." That's immoral. So there's a little bit of life advice for you. If you have feelings for the people, it's natural, it's fine, it's perfect. But if you're in a relationship, communicate that to your partner. Don't just go running around fucking people behind their back. It's easy peasy. Okay, Cindy.
Yeah, he was a football player. So maybe like sailors, they have a woman in each harbor or each city they play in. But I wanted to come back to what August said earlier, and when she spoke about purity and marriage and everything like that, and we also need to remember that when men rape children and then the young girls get pregnant, in some states in the US, they force the kid to marry the man. And then because that's still legal in 12, 15 states in the US. So yeah, it's all of it is immoral. All this purity culture, all this talk they have about sex is immoral. There's nothing to salvage.
Yeah, we let's take your final thought, August, and then we'll move on.
My final thought actually will be stolen from the article itself, which is the religious right is neither. I think that pretty much sums it up. There we go. And see y'all next week for next week's installment of Christian Hypocrisy, because it will most definitely be next week and the week after that and the week after that and the week after that.
Indeed it will. Okay, so moving on, you can become a member of the channel for as little as 99 cents a month. I don't know what that is in real money, but in American money, it's 99 cents a month. Click the join button below the video, and this will give you access to special chat emojis, so you can have some of the host's wonderful faces on there. Also, we have a brand new store. I'm always very excited about this announcement. This is my favorite bit. Visit tiny.cc/merchaca to get your favorite items like t-shirts, hoodies, and coffee mugs. You can check out our new items like beanies, phone cases, and tote bags. And all ACA shows feature a special limited edition item each month. So be sure to check out our store for non-profits merch and merch from all the other shows. So our next article comes from Only Sky Media and was written by Hemant Mehta on 5th of October 2022. So just as some people can be hypocritical, as we may have touched on slightly in the last article, some people can really push the boat in the other direction. And in our last article, got a bit of a good news article, because that tells us that a Secular Government Caucus is coming to the Minnesota State Legislature, thanks to 4 lawmakers who want to protect church-state separation and push back against the forces of Christian nationalism. This is a state with a democratic governor, even. But the 4 members, who will be joined by 20 of their colleagues, believe this is still a necessary step. The co-chairs stated that we are troubled by the efforts from some politicians to push a Christian nationalist agenda, where right-wing Christian politicians are attempting to break down the wall of separation between church and state in order to push their beliefs on others. Many others, like the 4 are named Representative Mike Freiberg, I can't do the American pronunciations, Representative Athena Hollins, Senator Jen McEwen, and Sen John McCarthy, stated that they were unhappy that the GOP majority Senate wanted to put "In God We Trust" posters in public schools. We may have covered that before on the non-profits too. These are tactics of pushing back religious neutrality and viewpoints that are critical of conservative Christianity. It goes, as it usually does with conservative Christians, much further. And as usual with conservative Christians, it pushes the boundaries of anti-education. Cindy, what do you think?
I don't know if you've seen Biden's speech last weekend, but I'm going to paraphrase what he said and quote, "Let me start off with 2 words. About them time." He said that, and made in America, and so that made the joke. The Christo-fascists have been working on turning the US in a theocracy for at least 30 years, and that's a generous number.
Very generous.
And now that there's a SCOTUS that's not afraid of saying that they are deeply religious, and they are not afraid of using this religious influence, some people in one state are troubled. Man, the entire world is watching, fearing that what will happen in the next 2 years, and you are just troubled. You should be angry. You should be scared. You should be fighting for your life, because it may depend on it. Never, ever in the history of humanity has a theocracy been or turned out to be a happy, peaceful, or proper city country. Never. That never happened, and that's not going to happen because the U.S. is a magical country. The U.S. is the greatest country on earth. No, that will not happen.
No, it won't. I want to point out Richard's favorite word in this episode, which is hypocrisy. So the Christians that have the majority in this nation, we always hear about the Second Amendment. We hear all the time about the Second Amendment, or if we hear about the First Amendment, it's usually in the form of freedom of speech, which they don't understand either. But it's always about my guns. Let me keep my guns. And it's so annoying. But then I'm like, okay, so you skipped over the First Amendment. You don't even really understand that one, because in the First Amendment, if you read really closely, there's this thing called the Establishment Clause. And that means that the U.S. does not have a national religion. And they always forget that. So I don't know why this is like such a big, wow, they want to make a secular government caucus. It's like, yeah, weren't we supposed to be doing that this whole time? Wasn't that like the whole point? I'm so confused, but I just think it's hilarious how they just skip right over the First Amendment, or at least, it's like when your teacher tells you to read part of a textbook and then you just go, and you skim the first few sentences and think you know it. Well, no, you don't know the First Amendment and you want to skip over to the second, but then you forget that the U.S. is not a Christian nation by any stretch of the imagination. So one thing I always would love to ask these people is, you want to push a Christian government, you want to make a theocracy, a Christian theocracy. And not only that, a lot of them want a fundamentalist Christian theocracy, which is so much worse. Handmaid's Tale, anybody? But anyway, what if the Church of Satan was wanting to come into the government and lead our government? I think they would start listening to the Establishment Clause. I think they would say, no, how dare you put in Satan we trust? Isn't there freedom of religion? Well, freedom of religion is freedom from religion. So if you wouldn't want a Buddhist putting shit in your schools, or Muslims putting shit in your schools, or Satanists putting shit in your schools, or even just mending into government wherever, then everybody should be happy about this. Every American should be happy about this. I don't understand why this shouldn't even be a news article, because it should have happened in our friggin' founding. But anyway, Richard.
I'm going to push, and I think it's very important that everybody writes in and makes this happen, that the next non-profits t-shirt has somewhere on it, "My guns." I think it's necessary. Right, okay, so the mission statement for the new caucus reads: promote public policy based on reason, science, and moral values. Protect the secular character of our government by adhering to the constitutional principle of separation of church and state. Oppose discrimination against atheists, agnostics, humanists, seekers, religious and non-religious people, championing freedom of thought and conscience. And provide a forum for Minnesota legislators to discuss their moral frameworks, ethical values, and personal religious journeys. And before the Christians start screaming about atheists this and atheists that, at least one member of the core signatures is a theist. Cindy, do you want to wrap us up on this one?
Yeah, I just want to go to the same direction as August by pointing out that I think most of SCOTUS is Catholic, and most of the senators are on the other side. So if we want to install a theocracy, is it going to be a Catholic one, or a Methodist one, or a Calvinist one, or which version? Before it even gets to decide which one, it will be messy and never going to work.
Right. And I think that's a great point, Cindy. I just want to point out the fact that atheists can be secular humanists. They can want to be skeptical. And when I think of secular, I just think of not influenced by religion or dogma, or it reminds me of critical thinking and, hey, let's assess what we actually have, because atheism says nothing about morality or anything. It just says, hey, I don't believe in a God. There are plenty of immoral atheists. But I think the secular part of it, I don't want an atheist government. I want a secular government. I want us to be free from religion, to practice religion or to not, whatever you choose.
Yeah. Wow, I can't believe the show's almost over. I've had such a good time. I don't know whether the viewers have enjoyed it, but I've really enjoyed this episode. It seems to have gone super quick as well. Okay, so what you can do if you want to see more of us, hear more of us, talk to us more, is join our fan social media outlets. You can find most of the non-profit hosts on the atheist community of Discord by going to tiny.cc/ACD Discord, and on Facebook at tiny.cc/FBNP. If you would like to support the show, you can do. Oh, yes, you can do, by becoming a patron at tiny.cc/PatreonNP. If you find yourself already shopping at Amazon, support the atheist community of Austin by shopping at smile.amazon.com and selecting the atheist community of Austin as the beneficiary. Be sure to use the link to help out the ACA, and we do appreciate it. We really do. And we do value your feedback. I do especially value your feedback. If you don't want to hear me talk, tell us. If you want to see more of my amazing co-hosts, tell us. I certainly do. So tell us what you like and what you don't like in the comments, or email us at nonprofits@atheist-community.org. Also visit the Atheist Community of Austin's official website at atheist-community.org on the latest of what's been happening, and feel free to contact, or anything beginning with a C, the ACA, at tv@atheist-community.org. I feel like I should have that tattooed on my forehead. And so, okay, right. We've had a brilliant episode. I've really enjoyed it. I hope you've all really enjoyed it. A couple of final words from my wonderful co-host, Cindy. Final thoughts.
Yeah, you mentioned Smile and the Amazon program. I would like to remember that if you do that at least once, you will receive an email from Amazon every quarter telling you how much Amazon gave to the ACA. And the last couple of times I received that email, we were at around $950 every quarter. So yeah, it helps.
It helps. August.
Well, I just want to say that whether you are religious or not, I want people to do whatever the fuck they want to do if it's not hurting themselves or others. So have at it. Be free. Do whatever the fuck you want. Just as soon as you start hurting other people or yourself, that's where we have a problem. So stay safe. Be happy. Watch all of our shows. Buy the merch. Hit that like button. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah, we certainly will. Thank you for watching. We will see you next time.
Watch Talk Heathen live Sundays at 1 p.m. Central. Visit tiny.cc/YTTH and call into the show at 512-991-9242, or connect to the show online at tiny.cc/callth.